Blog Talk Radio.
Hi folks, welcome. I'm Dan McDermott. This is the McDermott Report. We're live at 8 Eastern weeknights, except tomorrow night we're going to have a tape, either a pre-recorded show or we're going to have to skip the show because I have another engagement I have to do. Joining me is Ms. Emily Williams, also in Lynchburg, Virginia. Emily, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Dan.
I am late tonight, about 3 minutes late, so I apologize. But okay, so we have an action-packed show tonight. Pretty excited about it. Lots of good stuff coming. We talked at length. Really good show last night. We discussed the debt ceiling and all the implications of that. Not a ratings bonanza, but you got to live, right? You got to tackle the tough issues once in a while. And tonight we have really good stuff. I want to start with. We're going to talk about the post office. We're going to talk. They're planning on closing 3,653 post offices. Someone ranting about checkbook journalism. We're going to talk about what that is and the reality of this. After Amy Winehouse died, Microsoft tweeted something that has been very controversial. They've apologized for it. I think they're full of it. Google's revised their real name management policy. Is it okay or too little too late? Facebook for Business has debuted. Interesting. We'll talk about that. Universities are launching a high-speed broadband, a real one, like approaching gigabit or more speeds. We'll talk about that. MS-DOS is 30 years old, and I have romantic memories of MS-DOS. I'll talk about that, and I'll stop saying I talk about that. A Tea Party leader was arrested on piracy charges was a headline, and I'm wondering if this is fair and some other stuff. But anyway, I want to start with the Postal Service. There's a good story, and if you look at my my Google Plus page, which you can find at gplus.2/McDermott, you'll discover a link to a list of all the post offices. And I looked, and I got beat up a little bit about this topic. I'll talk about that. One person said that they're not a business. Move on, time to move on, that sort of thing. Well, it is a business in that it employs people, provides a service, and charges money. But I think it's sad because most of the ones that are closing, I'm saying most that I'm familiar with. And we have newspapers in 3 towns, so I looked in those 3 towns to see what would be impacted. All 3 towns are impacted. And they're all a lot of them were in downtown areas, like the downtown Main Street or near the courthouse, that sort of thing. So these are areas where you're already struggling, and usually you'll see like a downtown business association. They're competing with the strip malls and with Kohl's downtown on the outskirts of town, that sort of thing. And people still use, like we use the post office. What do we use it for? In the newspaper business, we use it to mail invoices. We get a lot of press releases and things via email. We don't even have a functioning fax machine anymore. We just have people email it, because if they fax it, then you got to retype, what they're saying if it's an announcement or something. And virtually everyone has email. So I think this is sad. I also think it's inevitable, because when you think, what are the things you need the post office for? You need to mail a letter. You can just go to a blue box somewhere. You can buy stamps. I buy them at Sam's Club. I get a roll of 100 for $40-some or whatever. You don't need to go there to pick up your mail unless you have a post office box. And some post offices don't have service, but they have a bunch of P.O. boxes. And that may be the case because those are revenue generators, and they've got to sort it somewhere and that sort of thing. So that may still happen. And then if you have an odd-shaped thing you need to mail, and you're not sure how much it's going to cost, there are machines now and all these boxes, they say if it fits, it ships. I think a lot of that is preparing for the inevitable close down of some post offices to make it easier to basically they're cutting themselves out of the loop as far as the manned or staffed by human being counters. So I think it's sad in a way. What do you think, Emily?
Yeah, I think it's sad in a nostalgic kind of way, but the reality of the situation is we have technology that has replaced a lot of the need. And I looked through. I was born and raised in Maine, and I looked through at the Maine offices that were closing. And most of them are in small towns, towns that had a post office because people, could walk to it or what have you. So in that way, it isn't taking away from the small town America. Terrible to use that phrase, but And at the same time, I think you really have to, email has just replaced it. Everyone can still get to a post office, I would think. It might be a bit more of a trip for some people, but in this era where everyone uses cars to get everywhere, that shouldn't be a huge problem. I'd rather see them close branches than cut back service, than to not get my mail to only get mail 3 days a week. So I think it's a good business decision for them. The only other negative really is the amount of jobs that are being lost. And I can't even imagine working in the Postal Service for so long and then having to find a different job. It's got to be horrible.
Yeah, some of them make good money, and frankly, some of them, been there 30 years, and they've got a skill set that it doesn't apply to too many jobs outside the post office. It's sad. It's like, Paul Bunyan, the guy invents the chainsaw, and you can battle him and duke it out, but the guy's going to win with the chainsaw. And with the technology improved, they don't need to sort stuff. They can drive it 3 hours, sort it, drive it back, and it's actually cheaper and still gets there. Although here in Lynchburg, it's abysmal. I mailed checks Monday, and they're still not there. It's a 3-hour drive away. It shouldn't take 3 or 4 days to mail something that's 100 miles, 150 miles away. So even if you do use it, it's just it doesn't seem like the service is what it should be or what it used to be. But this is inevitable. I think nobody wants to pay $2 to mail something. That'll just make people use it less. And one of the post offices that they're talking about is the location of it's not the original one, but it's where the original Ben Franklin post office was before there was even the United States. And in the article we linked to, they still don't fly an American flag. It's the only post office where they don't because, as a tribute to Ben Franklin, because the United States didn't exist at the time that the post office was started. So anyway, I just, you can have your own views. I think it's a good thing. And I want to apologize real quick. We're on Justin TV because I can't get Ustream to work with Wirecast. I don't know if it's a Ustream problem or Wirecast problem, but the last few times I've been doing it on Justin. And some guy chatted at length last night, and I didn't even see it. And at one point he said, I think I'm talking to myself. And he was, and I apologize. So if that guy's watching, I'm sorry. Your chats were very interesting, and I read them all. And they're gone now. So what if you wrote a book and nobody was around to read it? So I apologize. Okay, I don't know if Emily, this checkbook journalism story is interesting to me because I have some experience along these lines. This is this is a story from Business Insider. It's referencing a Howard Kurtz story on the Daily Beast. And what it's about is this woman wrote, or she was complaining because it was revealed that ABC contributed $200,000 to Casey Anthony's legal defense for an interview. And then there was another one. ABC offered $10,000 for an interview with the mom who claimed that she had injected her daughter with Botox to make her more competitive on the beauty pageant circuit. And after she appeared on Good Morning America, she admitted that she had made up the whole story and used a false name. Good Morning America rightfully withheld payment. The payment to the Botox mom caught my eye because I was negotiating with ABC the same week, she says. I got an exclusive from former President George Bush, which I sold to ABC for $500. Now, this is an independent, I guess, producer, videographer, and she goes and she gets interviews, and then she offers them for sale to ABC, CBS, whoever wants them. And in this interview, though, what's interesting, she only got $500 for an interview with the former president. Bush had in the interview, Bush revealed the details of his conversation with President Obama after the death of Osama bin Laden. More than 1,800 outlets linked to the story that she gave to ABC. The entire tenor of the debate about the death of Osama bin Laden changed after the publication of her story. After reading Bush's comments, even conservatives on Fox, she says, stopped doubting that bin Laden was dead and whether Obama had handled it correctly. And that sites such as Politico noted that Bush could not find the time to come to ground zero after the death of bin Laden, but had earned $15 million making speeches to well-heeled executives, it says. I don't understand what that has anything to do with it. It seems to me she needs an agent, because if she only got $500 for that, there's two issues. There's this issue. If she only got $500 for an interview with President Bush describing his, for the first time and only time, his phone conversation with President Obama about the death of Osama bin Laden, then she sold herself. She obviously is representing herself, I guess, or as a lousy agent, because I know I've as a photographer in those days, I got, sometimes they would sell for thousands of dollars, much less important things, tabloidy stuff, and so it tells me that, the old saying of a lawyer who represents himself as a fool for a client. I think the same applies to a freelancer. She needs to get, I have an agent in New York, and he I call him and say, okay, I got this. I talked to one guy who had an exclusive. There was a serial killer, and he had a shot of a scene. It was only one, and I think he made over $10,000 in 15 minutes on the phone with his agent, selling it to different outlets. Everyone was obsessed with the story. And so there's that issue. And as far as paying, they shouldn't. There's a difference between paying a journalist money for their work. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, everyone on TV gets paid except Emily and I. But like, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're a freelance journalist and you have a scoop, it's good stuff, and you've got the exclusive videotape of the president talking about the world's biggest story, clearly you should be compensated for that, because you don't get those things 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, And so she sold herself short. She had poor representation from herself or from someone else. But obviously, if ABC is paying $200,000 to someone who's that's a whole different argument. But I think this is, I dare to say, a nonsense article. What do you think, Emily?
Well, the basic ethical issues that she gets at are right. I mean, they test with everything that you learn in journalism ethics, and it is ridiculous that she got paid so little. And I don't know if it's possible that she has a exclusive kind of contract with ABC where she couldn't have upped them with a different network. All I know is that freelance journalists do a lot of the time get the stiff end of the stick. And I apologize, my dog is going crazy. It's a shame. And I think, your argument is correct. She needs to have a better agent. She needs to be selling for more than that. But at the same time, ABC should not be paying $200,000 to the people that stories are about. I mean, they should be paying that money to several journalists whose job it is to get those stories from the people without having to pay them. I mean, they're really just, it's cutting out the middleman and spending more money on it as a result. And it's just not, I don't think it's a good business practice, and it's definitely not a good ethical journalism practice. I mean, paying for interviews is the biggest no-no you can do. And I mean, that's how we get people that, lie about injecting their children with Botox, or lie about their children being stuck in a metal balloon flying about. I mean, that was a horrible, horrible story. And it really comes down to the fact that there are plenty of journalists that want jobs. I mean, I can definitely speak towards that. And if they could break that down, and they could hire quite a few young journalists for $200,000.
But we also know this. We know that if you're comparing those two incidents, and it's not a good comparison, because apparently Casey Anthony's attorneys who got $200,000 did a good job selling their product, and this woman who wrote this article did not do a good job selling her product. But clearly, if you took a poll of Americans, as much as we don't like this fact, there's no denying it. If you said, how much do you know about the Casey Anthony thing, or how much do you know about Balloon Boy, and then you said, what did George Bush say about his conversation with President Obama about the killing of Osama bin Laden, maybe 15% would recall the Bush thing, and maybe 70% would recall the balloon boy, maybe 90%, maybe 80% of people around the world would know about the Casey Anthony case. So if you're looking at straight up value for something, it's like a niche health drink versus Coca-Cola. More people buy and are interested in Coca-Cola than some niche health drink, even though what's good for you is and important is a different story.
But that gets down to, that really gets down to the question of whether real news organizations should be covering tabloidy subjects or covering real issues in a tabloidy way. You can make it's definitely true that now it's worth a lot more money for them, but you'd also make the argument that before large news networks like ABC decided that they needed to get, really gossipy on stories and, O.J. Simpson trial, I guess, was a good example of something that just got overcovered and blown up to tabloid proportions in the mainstream media. It begs the question of whether or not people would be satisfied getting tabloidy news just from tabloids and getting real news from news networks. If the real news networks hadn't caved into reporting like that, it's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. Obviously someone made the business decision at some point that, publications like the National Enquirer were making it big money-wise on stuff that, their media corporation could also do. And I don't know. I'm of course speaking from I'm a journalist, and I love journalism and I love good reporting, and I hate to see stuff like this come out of mainstream media. It kills me. And it's the main reason I have a hard time watching a lot of the mainstream media, and pointing to television in particular, but every form is, of course, guilty of doing this. And, it's made me almost a media snob as a result, and it's a shame, I guess.
I think it's the age-old, that's the way it is. I remember, it's Phil Donahue versus Oprah, and Oprah won. And media is very, very competitive. And the days of, that's the news, from CBS News, those days are gone. And ironically, CBS is in last place. But anyway, all right, what's next? Let's see here. I'm looking along. If you want to follow along, I post these on my Google Plus page, gplus.to/McDermott. You can get there. And I have all the topics and the links to stories we're discussing. I would encourage you to check the stories out and make your own decision. And if you want to beat me up on the comments like some other folks, please feel free. We love that. Also, if you'd like to join our conversation, you're more than welcome to call 818-688-6625. And we'd love to put you on with us. My guest is Emily Williams, senior political writer for the Lynchburg Times. Emily, have you done a gplus.to thing yet?
Yes, it's gplus.to/EmilyKW.
Emily KW. gplus.to /Emily KW. I'll put KW in caps.
I want to warn our listening audience that we recently switched apartments, and we're having difficulty getting internet out to our new place. So I've been very inactive on my Google Plus page as a result.
Very naughty,
it sounds
Emily.
Like I'm going to. Yeah, I know. But it sounds like we're going to have both Verizon and Comcast fighting over us tomorrow, so that should change shortly.
Yeah, I called this guy I know. He runs like half of Comcast. He's the East Coast guy out of D.C., and he was gone, so I got some guy who works with them. So I'm pulling all the stops. I'm drinking my decaf tonight is in a Santa Claus cup in honor of all Emily wants for Christmas in July is some Broadband.
Yeah. Just
all right.
a little bit.
Okay, let me do this Winehouse story. This is you talk about crass, buddy. Amy Winehouse, obviously a train wreck. Nobody was surprised. Very sad. Very talented young lady. 27 years of age, died, apparently loaded with God knows what kind of drug cocktail. Very sad. Microsoft, which should be in theory a pretty technical oriented company, right? They did a tweet that they've I'm trying to find the original tweet. And I can't find it here. Do you have it, Emily?
I don't.
Okay, they did a tweet. I apologize. Inviting people to remember Winehouse by buying digital versions of her Back to Black album at social.zune.net. Wow. Oops. And then they got, of course, rightly blasted. And then they said, apologies to everyone if our earlier Amy Winehouse download tweet seemed purely commercially motivated. Far from the case, we assure you. They're full of it, right? Maybe it wasn't purely commercially oriented. Those are crocodile tears. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, just putting the URL in there was, I mean, that's a telltale sign that obviously, and I mean, you know, it's not surprising that Zune has to resort to riding out celebrity deaths to get business. But we all know how I feel about Zune. So
maybe you could have. Yeah, I'll tell you what. This lady could make some money. The lady who got $500 for George Bush, if she can get an exclusive interview with whoever the moron was who posted that tweet at Microsoft, she could probably get a lot more than $500 for it. Meet the tweeter. I don't know. See, we're totally doing a tabloid issue. I've become the prostitute I've criticized. All right, Google Plus revises Google Plus real name management policy. They got beat up over this. We're going to talk about this Friday with Christina Trapolino, among other things, on our debut of Google Plus Week here on this program. So I'm looking forward to that. Are you all been out of shape about this, Emily? What do you think? They didn't handle it well. It seemed like in some cases, if you were a celebrity a la William Shatner, a single tweet got you restored very quickly. But if you're Joe Sixpack, then you might have been referred to, please refer to our help forums or some, absolute arrogant, ridiculous, stupid-ass Google thing. What do you think?
Well, I think that Google's biggest mistake in this, and this is me guessing at what was going through their heads and the way they handled this PR-wise, but I think that they didn't realize, they should have realized early that Google Plus was, even in its beta stage, going to be a huge hit with a lot of people. And as soon as they saw their numbers climbing as rapidly as they did, they should have gotten right on having PR and customer service already for anything that might happen. Because, I mean, it is still in the testing phases. And so obviously there are things that they're going to implement that are going to tick some people off, or things that aren't going to be right with it. I mean, for example, before this even happened, they went through and I think they purged all the business accounts under the saying that they wanted to have businesses on a different kind of Google Plus account, and they wanted it to be specifically aimed for business. And they say that they're going to unveil that soon. But, I mean, I think the biggest thing you have to realize is that, I think it's only been out for like a month now. And, it's still really new, and it's still not a final product. And I think that's probably what gives them an excuse for what they did. But at the same time, as soon as they realize that so many people are going to be following them and, really attached to it, they definitely should have had their customer service and their PR people all over that.
Yeah, I agree. But I don't know. I mean, I think it boils down to you ask folks to try out the service. People make an investment of time. They tell others about it. They're advocates about it. And then you yank it away because it's some bureaucratic policy. And it comes across as arrogant, slapping in the face the people who are helping you test this and advocate for it. Ironically, their traffic went down last week, which is very strange considering more people are using it than before. I don't by like 1.8% or something. I mean, not a significant amount, but ordinarily you'd expect it to be growing as the user base grows. The amount of activity on the site would grow. I just think it was a goof up, and they've fixed it and they've learned. I hope. It's odd for them to actually have a successful attempt at a social network, given the lack of success of Wave and Buzz. But live and learn. No biggie, I guess. It'll all be forgotten in a couple weeks. All right, universities launch, Facebook for Business debuts. I've looked at this. You just go to facebook.com/business. Now, earlier this week, Google announced AdWords Express, which is like AdWords scaled down, real simple. Just create an ad, say how much you want to spend, and it makes the keywords up and does everything for you. You don't have total control. And some people were saying, well, you can't, choose your keyword, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can. Yes, you can. You can use regular AdWords. But there are a lot of folks who are intimidated by all the. I mean, I still haven't figured out everything. And on AdWords, and I use it, but I think it's a good option to get the Main Street pawn shop owner who may not be all of a technical geek that some of us are, and has an entirely different skill set that's just as valuable, and maybe this will open that up to him. So, but then Facebook for Business has launched. It looks like it's a page, again, facebook.com/business, and it has 4 options. It's a video, how to do it, and then it says pages, how to create a page or to create a page, a thing on ads, if you want to place an ad, if you want a sponsored story, and then plugins and apps. So it's just kind of a nice little interface for the different ways you can spend money on Facebook. So I guess Emily, it's good. They're duking it out. It's going to make both products stronger.
Yeah, my view on this is that Facebook should have rolled out Business Facebook about 2 years ago. I mean, this is late for them, and businesses have been using Facebook for a long time. And this would have been a great way for them to grab, to expand, and to, grow healthfully rather than, growing in these ways that invaded our privacy and made a lot of people not trust Facebook anymore. So, I think it's too little too late. I think that the argument that it's going to make them competitive is a little off, mostly because Google Plus is planning on unveiling their own business model within the next, month or so. It's great that they did it, but they should have done it sooner.
I think he resisted ads the whole time until his investors made him do it. But now he's, billionaire. He's all for the whole ad thing. Zuckerberg. All right, now I'm on PC Magazine's page. It's very irritating because they've got this horrible ad that's covering up the whole thing. But anyway, university, the headline here, this is from PC World again. The links to all the stories we're describing are on my Google Plus page, gplus.to/McDermott. Universities launch ultra-high-speed broadband initiative. A group of 29 universities has banded together in an effort to accelerate ultra-high-speed broadband deployment. It's called the Gig-U project. The universities are looking for new ideas from current broadband providers, potential providers. It says research universities increasingly depend on high-speed networks to educate, collaborate, innovate. Unfortunately, our networks are leading university communities depend upon do not provide the necessary advanced connectivity. Some universities have access to 100 megabits connections. Some are no longer satisfied, it says. The medical school at Case Western is no longer satisfied with 1 gigabit, but wants 10 gigabits per second to better handle radiological scans and other data. That's like a network speed. I think this is all good. I still feel some folks, like we're in Lynchburg, and some folks in this area are still using dial-up, and I feel for these folks that have a house they're trying to sell and it doesn't have internet. Who's going to buy that house? And they're usually nicer homes. on the mountain or something. But I think this is a good thing, Emily. I mean, obviously, we're for any kind of improvement.
Yeah, definitely, and it's great to see the universities doing it. I mean, that is where the internet started, was for them. So I think that if there was any good place to start a think tank, it would be with all of those great universities pitching in. And yeah, it is a little ridiculous on how our internet works. I mean,
you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, I apologize. I live out in the boonies now. I'm just like those other people that are having trouble getting internet. Yeah, I mean, it's 2011. The internet has been around for a long time, and it's about time that the ISPs stepped it up. I mean, it shouldn't take several weeks to determine whether or not they can hook your house up to the internet. I mean, I think that they have such a command over the market, and there's just a limited number of options, and they just haven't stepped up their game because they haven't had to. But hopefully with GigU we'll see something else.
GigU, yeah. This is kind of a softball question, Emily. Do you support faster internet? Yes, Dan.
Yes, Dan, I do.
All right.
Wholeheartedly.
Now, one thing you probably don't have any experience with is MS-DOS. Have you ever used a DOS?
Oh, I totally have. Our first computer was, and when I saw this article today, I was just hearkening back to because when I used to play Reader Rabbit on the floppy disk, they actually floppy, or Math Blaster, I think was another one we had. And I remember going into the DOS prompt and having to enter, the A:\/ or whatever it was to get it to read the disk, and then accessing files like that. And I was thinking about how I feel about the fact that computers have gotten so user-friendly, and it's great because it's opened them up to so many people, and it's made our lives a lot better. But at the same time, I think that my very young experience with MS-DOS and having to figure it out myself, because my parents were also figuring it out while I was figuring it out, really helped me as far as understanding programming languages and stuff like that goes. So, it's a give and take. But yeah, I totally did. And Reader Rabbit all the way.
Wizardry. Wizardry was way cooler than Peter Rabbit. I remember my first, I guess, when I was in school, it was a Timex Sinclair laptop type thing. And I remember I was always a geek, and I wrote a program. It was a quiz because I was really good at foreign languages, which uses the same part of your brain as math. And computer programmers, they're typically good at foreign languages as well. And anyway, I wrote a little program out on that thing. Some of the football players weren't doing so well, and so I wrote a program that quizzed them on different words or something. And then in college, my roommate, he had an Atari ST, and I used to play Wizardry. I think that was it. It was some kind of role-playing game, and I mean hours. The poor kid, I was on his computer, glued. I think I played like 12, 14, 16, 18 hours the first day. And then I got, in about 1990, I bought a 286 with an amber-colored yellow monitor, right? And then it had GeoWorks, or PC Geos, whatever it was called, but GeoWorks, it was like sort of a suite. It had a write program and a draw, and it was just awesome. And I just remember like WordPerfect 5.1, which was great. Just an awesome word processing program, and then Corel bought them. They had the best support. You'd buy it, and they actually had an 800 number for tech support if you had any kind of question about WordPerfect, and you could call them. They wouldn't ask you for your serial number. They'd just say, how can I help you, and answer your question. And it was just crazy good support. Those are the days. It was a 3-minute boot, but I don't know. I remember the good old days, and it's still around. I wrote my computer game. It was a DOS-based game in '93, Towers of Kublai Khan, and it sold all these copies, and then Windows came out. It sold 110,000 copies, and Windows came out, and none of the music would work under Windows because the drivers I used in the game. But in '95, I had a fire, and it destroyed the computer, so I lost the source code. So I've never updated it. But it wasn't an advanced game; it was just a cute game. But it sold, it sold a lot. So in collections mainly. But yeah, I miss DOS. Made a little money with DOS, and I have that's another thing I have romantic memories about. That makes me a geek. All right, this was this story was really interesting. I don't know, did you check this out, Emily? If not, then just check it out real quick. It's short, but it's again, if you're just joining us, you can follow along. This show is from July 27th. So if you look at my Google Plus page, if you're looking at it later on YouTube or something, go to July 27th, or just look under the YouTube thing, and it'll tell you the links. But this is on CNET. The headline reports, Tea Party leader arrested on piracy charges. Then it says, a leader of a South Carolina Tea Party group has been arrested for allegedly selling pirated software, according to reports. Anthony Trinka, 61, accused of selling versions of Microsoft Office, Windows, Adobe Photoshop, Rosetta Stone language that were counterfeit, news site TG Daily reported, one of several outlets to write about it. He was president of the Grand Strand Tea Party, arrested after someone to whom he allegedly sold software resold some of it and refused to give a refund when a buyer insisted it was pirated. He and his 23-year-old son Michael were both charged with unauthorized use or trafficking in counterfeit trademarks, were released on $50,000 bond. Okay, so, and then here's a picture. Grand Strand Tea Party, preserving American way of life, truth, honesty, family, faith. Yeah, I mean, is it fair? I guess I'm trying to draw an analogy here. This looks like some bit player who happened to be in a Tea Party group. This is not like, a congressman or something. And it's like, why is this a Tea Party thing? Is that fair or is that unfair, Emily?
Well, it sounded like he was...
Emily, you're breaking up a little bit. You're breaking up. We can barely hear you. Can you try to move around a little bit? Thanks.
Yep, sorry. I'm a little torn about how I feel on this one. I think that while it is important to report about political and public figures that do things that are against what they preach, I guess. They don't practice what they preach. It's important to report about it. But it was actually a public figure that should have been reported on without knowing more about him, which, of course, the website is now defunct, so you can't really do that.
Yeah, if he was selling... I don't know. I mean, I'm torn about this myself because my first inclination was, what the hell does this have to do with the Tea Party? Why are they picking on them over this? But then, if he were a Catholic priest, I think that would be news, right? If he were a high school principal that was busted, I think that might make national news. Just odd, interesting. If he were a guidance counselor or some type of moral leader, and I guess on the page here it says truth, honesty, family, faith on the Grand Strand Tea Party, the cached version. So it shows hypocrisy. If he were a car salesman at Chevrolet, I don't think you'd say Chevrolet car salesman arrested on piracy charges because it's not really relevant. But I guess this is a call. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could go either way. But my first inclination, which may or may not have been correct, was that this didn't have anything to do with the Tea Party. He wasn't selling it on the Tea Party website. It seemed like just sort of picking on the Tea Party. I don't know. What do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably relevant if he was using the funds that he got from selling pirated software to fund his Tea Party practice or his Tea Party group, I guess, then it is relevant because it's corruption, it's political corruption. But it really just comes down to, and this is getting into, academic journalism, it's whether or not he's a public figure. I mean, that determines the relevancy of giving his background and saying, what he's doing. If he's not a public figure, then, you report it in your local paper that some guy got arrested and maybe say that he was part of the Tea Party, but for CNET to cover it is going a little too far.
Yeah, again, I can see it. Like I said, if he was a minister, that'd be interesting and relevant. And I guess if he's, I could see it. Okay, now fun stories. This story could be controversial. What was the name of the book that said certain races were smarter or higher IQ, and it was a big controversy about 10 years, 15 years ago. I forget, but it was a lot of controversy about that. This story says that people in northern parts of the world have evolved bigger brains and larger eyes to help them cope with long, dark winters and dim skies, according to scientists. This is a Reuters story. Again, if you'd like to weigh in on whether you think, if you're from the north, we should get Daniel Bowie. He's going to be on Friday with us. We should get him on because he's in Vancouver, and he could tell us if he feels like his brain's growing or his eyes are getting bigger.
I grew up just as far north as Vancouver. Maine is about level with Vancouver as far as northness goes.
I'm looking at your face, and you're kind of squinting in your picture there, so I can't really tell if your eyes are larger. It says researchers from Oxford studied the eye sockets and brain capacity of 55 human skulls from 12 different populations across the world and found that the further human populations live from the equator, the larger their brains. It's not because they're smarter, however, but because they need bigger vision areas in the brain to cope with the low light levels at high latitudes. The scientists said in a report of their findings, as you move away from the equator, there's less and less light available. So humans had to evolve bigger and bigger eyes. Their brains also need to be bigger to deal with the extra visual input. It doesn't. I'm trying to see how much bigger. I don't think it says. And the skulls date back to the 1800s. I don't know. Is this a stupid BS slow news day story? Or is this real? What do you think? Doesn't even say how much bigger. Are they double or like 0.001%?
I'm sure the science behind it is real. I'm not sure if the numbers would be shocking to the public. And I mean, the reasoning behind it seems sound, that, if you had more difficulty seeing things, that part of your brain would get bigger so that you could see things better. I mean, seems pretty straightforward. And yeah, I'm really going on a nerdy academic journalism tangent like crazy tonight, and I apologize for anyone who finds this boring, but there's always been a problem in journalism covering science. I think that it's just really difficult to translate scientific academia and journals into things that the general public is interested in and understands. And most of the time, the mass media gets it wrong. That they sensationalize things, they don't quite properly report stuff. I mean, if you want to look at a great example of a bunch of media outlets trying to do this, just everything that happened in Japan as far as the reactors are concerned, the nuclear reactors are concerned, there was a lot of good reporting and there was a lot of not quite so accurate reporting. So it's a tricky job. I think one member of my graduating class in graduate school went into science journalism, and she had studied science in her undergrad. So, I mean, those are the type of reporters we need, are people that can, really understand what's going on to better distill it. But yeah, I don't know. I think that the evolutionary logic on this one seems sound to me, but I'm not an expert.
Well, you're going to get in big trouble with all of our viewers who live near the equator and feel slighted. But I guess they won't be able to watch the video version with their, I don't know, this is ridiculous. But anyway, all right. The last story I have, 15 ways supermarkets trick you into spending more money. Did you see this? How many did you know about? Some are obvious, right?
Yeah, some are pretty obvious. None of them, I think, will change the way I shop.
You won't be on guard now?
Yeah. But then again, I consider myself a pretty savvy grocery shopper. So, but I don't know. I mean, the funny thing is that the article listed all those things and then didn't get into, I mean, I think a more useful article would have been ways to get around them. You know, like they mentioned making a grocery list, but every grocery store has its weak points where you can get things for super cheap that they don't want you to know about, you know, like day-old bread that goes on sale, but when it's not a day old, or...
And it's over by the diapers, you know, so that you don't buy that instead of the fresh. Some of this stuff's just common sense. Like when a sausage guy will fry up some onions and peppers because the smell entices you. I don't know if it's tricking you. I mean, you know what's going on. You know when you go to the fair, you're going to be dazzled with visual things. You know, ooh, look at this shiny object. I mean, we're not much different than a puppy or a kitten. If we see something cool, our eyes are drawn to it. We know it, you know. That's why we go to the fair, so we can eat all that stuff, get sick for like 3 days, and then we do it again next year. We look forward to it. You know, I'm not going to eat anything today because tomorrow's a carnival. You know, I'm going to really earn my my awful stomach ache. Okay, one of the ways they talk about the push cart, and they say you first go in. This is from Business Insider. Again, the link is on my Google Plus page. Most supermarkets put high-margin departments like floral, fresh, baked goods near the front door so you encounter them when your cart is empty and your spirits are high. But that makes sense because that's kind of like the floral thing. I would think that would make sense because it's more convenient if you're going to buy. If Ryan decides to surprise you with the bouquet of roses or flowers, hypothetical situation here. I'm getting Ryan in trouble, but I would think it'd be more convenient if you put that in first, and then you built the rest of your, dog food and stuff on the bottom, and that's just I don't know if that's tricking anybody. But I guess you're in a good mood when you first go in and you see all this beautiful stuff and the smells, and I just want to get carbs in me, if you're hungry.
I guess. I mean, the one thing that I really agreed with that I've always been annoyed by is the fact that the dairy is in, the far back corner. I hate having to walk by all the frozen foods to get to the dairy section. And I guess it would make sense if that's their cheaper stuff. But then again, my grocery breakdown always has a lot of money worth of cheese in it. So I'm not sure how accurate that is.
A lot of money. What? Money? Would you say? Cheese?
We usually spend a good chunk of our groceries on cheese, so I'm not sure if that's our cheapest purchase.
I like cheese. Okay, and then, of course, obviously the milk is in the back of the store, so you have to walk through. It says, once customers start walking through the racetrack aisles, they are conditioned to walk up and down aisles without deviating. Most stores move customers from right to left, and they put the things that you're more likely to buy tend to be on the right side of the aisle. So I guess if you go, it'd be interesting. Next time you go in a store, if you pick something like milk or eggs, because bread's usually on the sides in a bakery now, and they put all the bakeries out of business. And I don't know if you can find an independent bagel store anywhere except in a big city, but I guess if you look at what's the direct path, it'd be interesting to look and see if more stuff is on the right than the left. And then cereal, the eye level. This is, everyone knows this. The sugar junkie stuff is at the kids' eye level, and maybe Frosted Flakes and Cheerios are at our eye level, and then the healthy stuff is at the bottom or the top. But the expensive stuff's right where you can see it. And then other stuff like Easy Mac or stuff that your kids will grab and beg your parents to buy will be put at the kid level. And then it says that sample stations and other products slow you down, or displays and sample stations slow you down while exposing you to new products. Obviously a sample station is designed to get you to stop and sample something. I don't know if they're tricking you. In a crowded store, people spend less time shopping and do more impulse shopping, purchasing fewer items. And they're less social, more nervous. So in a more open store, then you might go more slowly or whatever. I think that's true. I can't stand it in some aisles. I tend to leave my cart. When you're cart shopping, right? Not grabbing one thing, but when you're doing your weekly trip, do you bring a cart in with you? I mean, do you have the cart with you all the time, or do you leave it at the end and go and get your stuff? Because I tend to do that. But a lot of women will take it with them because they have their purse and stuff, and they don't want to leave that in the cart.
I hate carts, and I avoid them at all costs. I'm transitioning into the weekly shopping rather than every couple of days because I have just moved out of city life where you had to carry whatever you bought back with you about a couple blocks. But, and I never use the full-length carts. I always use those cute half carts that Kroger has. So I take it with me. But my cart's about the same size that I am, so it's not taking that much room.
I think I hate them, but you got to use them sometimes. And I eat a lot of healthy stuff, so it's big. You go through a lot of fruit. Oranges and grapes, they're big and heavy. And I just find in some of these aisles, like where the coffee is or something, there'll be so many people, and they'll just stop, and they're on the phone, and their cart's blocking the whole thing. And so I just leave it at the end. A couple times, if I've dilly-dallied too long, someone's got my cart, and they're some employee, and they're putting all my stuff back. One time I went like 40 minutes in Walmart, and then I got distracted in the kitchen gadget aisle trying to find something. I went back, and all my stuff had been put back, and I had to start all over again. But it was obviously more efficient the second time. And it's interesting. It says, as far as a crowded store, it says Asians are more tolerant of crowding, while the British are the least tolerant. That's interesting. Because I know one of the... Go ahead.
It's not surprising when you've been to a Chinatown in any major city on the weekend and tried to grocery shop. You always go to Chinatown on the weekdays because, the aisles there are tiny. And if you think you're claustrophobic in a regular supermarket, you should try out one of those. But, to move away from, big stereotypes like that, the Germans also love those tiny grocery stores, and they're usually pretty crowded, so.
Yeah, I remember, like in London, if you go on the tube down to Harrods or Marks and Spencer, they're semi-spacious. They're not cramped, but the tube is certainly, at peak time, it's busy. And they talk about different colors make in a supermarket cause you cool colors encourage more contemplation and higher sales, like a brick exterior and a light blue interior. And then music. Studies have shown slow music makes people take their time and spend more money. Loud music makes them move through the store quickly without affecting sales. And classical music leads people to buy more expensive things. I guess that... I don't know. They know it's a science. It's not, But I know, like some of the stores in the mall, like the kids' clothing stores, they've got. You go in there. I went into one, not that I would fit in anything they sell, but like it was a Hollister or one of those stores, right? Mm-hmm. They'd just come to whatever mall, and so I walked through, and just check it out, and it's definitely for skinny people, and. It was so dark, you almost couldn't see anything, and they had this loud top 40 music playing, and I was just like, this is just not a pleasant experience. But I'm not the target demo, right? Obviously, I wouldn't spend that ridiculous amount of money. We had a story I was supposed to talk to you about last night. American Apparel. Have you ever looked at them? I went there. I think it's American Apparel. I'm gonna get ready to slam them, so I don't want to. Let me see. You know what I'm talking about? It's American Apparel, and they did a thing. Let's see here. They're doing a store on eBay, and this was national news. I'm like, if I set up a store on eBay, is that going to be national news? Yeah, it's them.
They're a large international clothing chain, though. There's American Apparels all over the world.
Well, I looked, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would not be caught dead in anything they sell. I'm looking here. It's odd. It's almost like people living on the edge, or I guess if you wanted, if you were doing a drag show or something. But like just odd things. Like here's a guy in green tight, like green brief underwear and a hoodie, and then there's the swimming trunks. This guy, I say trunks. This a bright yellow, golden, shiny swimsuit that's quite form-fitting. The pants that I don't know. I'm looking here. I'm like, I think if they're having sales problems, it has nothing to do with their method of distribution. It's that they're, I don't know. Am I being too harsh on these guys? I think the models are unattractive and the clothing's odd. What am I sticking in the mud here, or what's going on?
I feel like that this is. I think this is another case of you not being the target demographic. American Apparel sells like basic pieces for the most part that you would use in your wardrobe with other things. So like for women, they have like lots of leggings and plain T-shirts, and but you know it's basic apparel, but it's usually pretty pricey. So it's definitely like a metropolitan, I don't know, high-end alternative to maybe I wouldn't even compare them to Hollister. I don't know, they're a different store. And it's interesting that they're using eBay as their way to, become more technological, when I would argue that eBay is probably on the outs as far as in technology goes. So,
yeah, these are men's pants. Here are the names. There's a work pant for $75. I'm not even getting into that. Then there's the poly viscose schoolboy pant. Hi, I'd like some poly viscose schoolboy pants. Can you imagine?
No, Dan. Where do you go clothes shopping?
Okay, I'll tell you. I'm wearing this. This was actually I was the best man at a wedding, and they gave me this tie to wear for the wedding, and so I'm wearing this tonight with my buddy Donnie. This shirt is from Costco, $15, $20, and I've got Hanes T-shirt or undershirt. I've got Levi's blue jeans from Macy's or Kohl's. I've got other Hanes garments, my underwear and my socks, and then my shoes. I don't know, from Target probably, tennis shoes. I'm not in their target demographic. I see the stretch chambray stripe travel pant, the cotton Edam canvas travel pant, the striped polycotton welt pocket pant. There's a jumper pant for $38 that looks like something out of an MC Hammer video. And it does not go nicely with this pale person in the light gray wife beater. Anyway, if they can sell their crap on eBay, more power to them. Now everyone's mad at us. Everyone who has small brains and eyes, and anybody who buys an American Apparel. But what are you going to do? Another way here, back to our supermarket, the way supermarkets trick you into spending more money. The most profitable area is the checkout line, where after a few minutes you'll succumb to the temptation of the candy wrap. Those are impulse items. You know, I haven't had an Almond Joy in a while. Ooh, Twizzlers. And then your valued shopper card, giving you the occasional deal, provides valuable tracking data. That's just common sense, obviously. I don't know. I hate those things. But you have to fill this form out and get the card. You used to be able to just say, "Hey, you got a card," and then the lady would give you one, or the man, whoever was at the running the checkout. Now it's self checkouts, and now they won't. They're like, "Nope." They want that data, but everyone does it. So go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think I gave them my information card when I got my card, and I mean. The only reason that I use cards like that is because I am a super strategic grocery shopper, and I love seeing the amount of money that my card saves me at the end of the day. And I think that the one thing that they don't get me on is I have cards for several different supermarkets, and I shop at a bunch of different ones. because I'm used to having to do that. I'm used to having to go to one place to get your vegetables and a different place to get, your rice noodles or whatever. And so doing that here is not a big deal for me.
Vegetables and rice noodles?
Yeah. I miss living in a city, Dan.
Do you wear American?
Do
you have a little American Apparel outfit you wear when cooking your rice noodles and veggies?
No,
I bet Michelle Obama would be proud as you bring your Made in America Shop Local bag to your local Trader Joe's. You're hardcore. You're a big Trader Joe's addict, right?
I am. I love pretty much everything about them. But to be fair, I was also a big fan of the Aldi supermarket that I shopped at while living in Germany, which is owned by the same people. So.
Oh, that's a whole other thing I wanted to talk about. Aldi's. I love Aldi's, and they're German-owned. Give a quick description for folks who've never been into an Aldi. It's ALDI. It's a supermarket. It's a very unique experience. Give us a quick description for folks who haven't been in one.
I've never been in an Aldi's in the United States, but assuming they're the same as the German Aldi's, which you could stop me if they're not, it's kind of a combination of like a wholesale, like a BJ's kind of experience or Costco kind of experience, where you have like clothing and stuff in the middle aisle, and then you have food all around it. And I mean, this is the German version, so that might be totally different. But it was a not too big, but not super small, kind of in between, I guess.
In the U.S., it's a little grocery store. They're maybe twice the size of a large 7-Eleven. I mean, they're small. And in the United States, everything they sell, with a few exceptions, is a house brand. They don't have A1 sauce. They might have V2 sauce, and it looks exactly like A1 and probably tastes the same, probably made by them. They'll have, and they'll only have one of everything, one kind of pepper, one kind of ketchup, and it's their brand. And I think they don't give you bags. So what they do when you go through the checkout line, they just take your stuff from the cart, put it on the thing, and then put it into another cart. And then you go. There's a big counter in the back where you bring your cart. You can either take your cart out to the truck and load it in, or car, or they have a big the full width of the wall in the back of the store, near like where the door is, and then the check in between the checkout lines. You can load your stuff into your bags you brought from home, or you can probably purchase a bag there. And then the shopping cart, you pay $0.25 to get the shopping cart, and then when you return the shopping cart, you get your quarter back. So they don't have to pay a kid to go out and bring the carts in. So that's kind of it makes sense, and they don't have everything, but they have enough, stuff that you could do most of your shopping there, and it's dirt cheap. Ridiculously cheap. And I don't know, I mean, I guess the quality's okay. My mom loves them, and they're not snobs, but they're not buying junk, But so if she shops there, I'm sure their quality's pretty good. But what's interesting is a guy who worked there for 10 years is now an executive at Walmart, and he's in charge of this new Walmart Express. And it's a 10,000-foot store, and a typical Walmart's 100,000, some are 200,000 and square feet. And so they're trying to pop up. What they're doing in these cities where they keep passing laws to keep them out, they're trying to put these Walmart Express stores in. And so, more power to them, more competition. And I think that's interesting. We'll go more in detail on another show about that. But I think we've covered everything. We've even told you all the ways that you end up spending all that money on those items at the grocery store. Did you have any other burning issues you want to chat about?
No, I think that covers it pretty well.
All right, cool. Emily, I may try to con her. I don't know if you want to do a show tomorrow earlier. I know you normally don't do a Thursday, but I've got this thing tomorrow night. So either we'll talk about if you want to do like a short show tomorrow or something, and then I can run earlier in the day, and then I can just run it. Or I may not do a show tomorrow. I'll announce it on my Plus page, but I have an event I was pre-scheduled to do, and But anyway, the show ordinarily, except for tomorrow, runs live at 8 p.m. You can, the best place to go, because I'm still, right now we're on justin.tv, but other times it's somewhere else. But the web address is gplus.to/McDermott. Emily's also on Google+. You can catch her at gplus.to/EmilyKW. EmilyKW is her URL after gplus.to. And anyway, you can also catch Emily's wonderful writing at the Lynchburg Times newspaper. That's lynchburgtimes.com. Emily's the senior political writer there, and I occasionally write for there, but Emily writes circles around me. You're always welcome to call the show. Our number is 818-688-6625. We thank you very much for checking us out tonight. I'm Dan McDermott, and I'll be back Friday live and maybe recorded tomorrow. We'll have to see if we can get it in. Thank you for watching the McDermott Report.